to Tweed Shire Council's Home Expo, Living for the Future. And it's all around sustainability and how to live more sustainably. And this afternoon session, the last workshop for today, Beginner's Guide to Native Bees. And you've got to love a workshop that actually has some bees and some things to actually look at, so that's great. So Steve Maginnity is from the Australian Native Bee Company, and they're a commercial pollination business involved in conservation of native bees by rescuing them from areas such as the Pacific Highway upgrade. And the company also provides educational talks to preschools, primary schools, high schools and to the community. And it's very important, as we saw earlier in the other bee workshop, around how important bees are to pollinating a lot of the foods that we like to eat and a lot of our beautiful native flora and fauna. And I still remember as a child my mother running around with a feather trying to pollinate our pawpaws because we obviously didn't have enough bees in the area. So I'd like to hand over to Steve and he'll do his presentation on Beginner's Guide to Native Bees.
So my name's Steve Maginnity. I've been, I'm the owner and director of the Australian Native Bee Company. I've been working in the company for around about 10 years now. My interest in native bees came about when, so I'm a high school teacher as well, and about 10 years ago moved to the region. This is my second teaching appointment, and so I teach agriculture and science. And I was lucky enough in that first year that I moved up to the area to do a European beekeeping course. And so with European bees, like, until you get more deeply involved with any bees or anything at all, then your interest isn't going to be as intense or as it might be if you find out more information. So after doing the European beekeeping course, I was pumped about taking or getting some hives at the school because I saw that it was a fantastic educational tool. It was going to enable me to teach the kids about plant and animal interactions. It was going to enable me to have a marketing tool through the sale of wax and honey. And there's just such a broad spectrum of things that could be done with European bees. And I saw that. And I saw the potential and I was excited about keeping it. Anyway, I went back to school with the intention of buying a couple of hives. And my principal called me up and said, you won't be keeping it.
And a flex.
Yep, yes. Exactly right. So he said, we've got 30 students here that are identified as having anaphylaxis when stung by bees. So you're not going to increase the chances of that happening. I said, listen, that's pretty ludicrous, seeing as that there are more than 1,500 species of native bees in Australia. We're in a semi-rural environment at this school, so there's bees everywhere around us here. There's even bees there's wild hives or feral hives in the trees of the ag plot. And he said, yep, that's fine. You're not going to increase the chances of our kids getting anaphylaxis. So I was a bit dejected at the time, but at the European beekeeping course I actually met a bloke who was keeping native bees. And even though me and my family, I've got 4 brothers, and we've all grew up in the bush, hiking, camping, etc. Unless you know about something, you don't tend to take notice. And as a result, I keep thinking back in my head about how many hundreds of hives I would have walked past when we were out in the bush or camping, and just not knowing that they were actually native bees. Anyway, so after meeting this guy at the European beekeeping course, I got his number. I rang him up and I said, "Can you tell me more about native bees?" And he said, "Yep. What do you want to know?" I said, "Well, do they produce honey?" He said, "Yeah, small quantities." I was like, "Is there anything unique about that honey?" He said, "Yeah, it's amazing." And he said, "But European beekeepers, they're not interested in native bees because it's such a small quantity." Okay, but they produce honey. Yep. I said, "Do they collect pollen and do they increase biodiversity by visiting various plants?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Do they only stick to native plants?" "No. They're promiscuous. They'll visit any flower that presents itself with some nectar or pollen for them to collect." I said, "Okay, so let me get this right. They're smaller, so more easy to handle within a school. Yep. They make honey. Yep. they pollinate plants. Yep. And I said, is there anything else about these bees that I should know? He said, yeah, they're stingless. Bing, 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 bing. I said, so we have an Australian native resource which is stingless, and but it does all those other things, and it's Australian. And he said, yeah. And at that point in time, I was hooked. And I went about finding out as much research as I could about the bees. And at the time, so 10 years ago, there was relatively little information about native bees. So I made it my job to write an educational resource and for both community members and schools, and with a focal point on schools, in order to inform people about this wonderful resource that we had, or that we have. And so, yeah, in my mind, the more that people know about native bees, the better, and the better we all will be. We've all heard about the risks of Varroa actually coming to Australia. There's actually an incidence of, I don't know if they found the Varroa mite, but they found Apis cerana, which is the common name is the Asian honeybee. They found them in Townsville a few weeks ago, and that is horrendous for us as a country, as people that enjoy food, or people that need food to survive. It should be more of a government responsibility in order to keep Apis cerana, or the Asian honeybee, out. The reason I say that is because they carry the Varroa mite. So anyway, the Varroa mite isn't going to affect our Australian natives. Even still, the European honeybees play such a huge role in our environment that we've established, and as a result, it's really important that we save not only the native bees but the European honeybees. We've given them a role within our society, and as such, we should protect them. Anyway, that being said, one fascinating and fantastic thing about the native bees is that the Varroa mite doesn't actually affect them, because Apis, it only carries out its life cycle on bees with the genus of Apis. So Apis cerana, or common name Asian honeybee, or Apis mellifera, which is the common name for the European bee. Yeah, so I think we, in the crowd, the reason I asked you guys what you currently know about native bees is because some people know nothing, so then I structure my talk to account for that, whereas other people know some things. So I'm going to open the floor. I'd like you to ask me questions, and yeah, and that will guide our conversation from there. Don't be shy. Yeah.
So do these pollinate as well as European, as effectively? Do you need 5 native bees for 1 European bee to pollinate the same amount of...
Great question. So, I currently run a pollination service with my bees, and the type of bees that we're dealing with here are called Tetragonula carbonaria. Just for ease of speech, we call them TCs. So, the TC bees are endemic to an area on the east coast, from as far north as the Atherton Tablelands to as far south as Bega. Now, what they've actually found is, and so I'm going to get off the track here for a little second, but then I'll bring it back, I promise. So, Australians, sometimes we can be, as a nation, we can be a bit slow. And why I say that is because we've had huge opportunities and we just let them slip through our fingers. One of those opportunities is to take the bush nut, commercialise it, and turn it into something which can be utilised throughout the world. That's what the Hawaiians did. So they came over to Australia, they saw our native bush nut, they thought this is a fantastic product. They took it back to Hawaii, they cultivated it, commercialised the product, and then they sold it back to us. Now, one of the reasons why I'm focusing on macadamias right now is because, one, it's pollination period now for macadamias, and we have macadamias from as far south as Urunga or Nambucca, just south of Cobbs, to as far north as Bundaberg, and maybe even a little bit further. Now, macadamia production in Australia is increasing massively, and what they've found, or what scientists have found over the last 30 years, is that these guys are the prime pollinators of macadamias. So their role in nature is to pollinate macadamia flowers. So a macadamia flower consists of about 300 individual florets on a large flower which they call a raceme, and these guys travel up and down the raceme, collecting pollen as they go, and as they visit one flower raceme and then visit another flower raceme, cross-pollination occurs. So pollen from one plant goes to the pollen of another plant, it goes to the female receptacle parts of another plant. Through that cross-pollination, huge benefits can happen. Some of those benefits are that they've seen from the scientific trials is 18 to 31% increase in the size of the kernel of a macadamia. Now, that might not sound like much, but let me put that into context. So, as a macadamia farmer will achieve, for every 1% increase in the kernel size, I'll get 10 cents per kilogram. Now, if you're timesing that by in terms of tonnage, then that's a big deal. So you're getting between $1.80 and $3.10 more per kilogram as a result of these guys in the orchards. And also, when these guys pollinate or cross-pollinate plants, macadamia trees in general, in a time of stress, they will drop the nuts which have been self-pollinated. So if wind blows and that pollen collects on the female receptacles of its own flower, it'll form a nut, but in times of stress, like water stress or periods of dry or any other stress to the tree, it says to itself, well, I need to manage a smaller quantity of nuts, so the nuts that drops are the self-pollinated ones. So the effects of pollination with these guys is amazing. It's fantastic, and it's been studied now for over 30 years, and macadamia growers are getting on board in a big way, and that's just one example. So
that's true across the board, or just macadamias?
It's not true across the whole world. What we need to understand is, like I said earlier, there's more than 1,500 species of native bees. Now, every bee has a role to play, and for example, the blue banded bee, which is a solitary bee.
I see that.
Yeah. They're quite large, and they have the ability to buzz pollen. Yep. So they actually vibrate the pollen grains out, which is something that European bees and TC bees can't do. So there's a lot of crops that these guys are better at, but then there's a lot of crops that European bees are better at, and then there's a lot of crops which blue banded bees are better at. All of our bees in Australia play a role in a certain area. So yeah, it is important to understand that and keep the biodiversity. Yeah.
So if you had no other bees, would they pollinate every type of plant?
No.
They wouldn't?
No. So there's some things that these guys are. There's some plants that they are incapable of pollinating. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Like tomatoes, they can't do tomatoes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
In a crop like macadamias, what sort of density would you want?
So the question was, in macadamias, what would be the density of bees? So we recommend, or the point of recommendation from scientific studies is 1 hive to 50 plants. If you guys haven't seen the bees yet, I'll just open both these hives so you can actually physically see the size of the bees. They're tiny. They're only about 4 millimetres in size. They have a foraging range of about 500 metres. They will go further if need be, but it's like when we talk about European bees, we say that they have a foraging range of 5 kilometres. But all bees, if there's food in your backyard, you don't bother going to the neighbours. So, and that's the same with natives and Europeans. If there's food in the near vicinity and there's enough to satisfy the hive, they don't need to go further. But so the optimum rate is 150. A lot of growers tend to stretch that out and try their luck with a less density of bees per trees. And but either way, some of the macadamia growers that I'm dealing with now are getting amazing results. In 2014, a gentleman by the name of Ben Zeman, who was one of my clients, he actually achieved Australian Small Grower of the Year for kernel size and tonnage for the amount of trees that he has. So he has a variety of macadamias called A16s, finally, Australian. So A is Australian varieties. So even though the Hawaiians did cultivate it and commercialise it, we've had this common sense to actually grow some of our own varieties. But with those A16s, Ben was able to achieve 48% kernel recovery. So the significance of that is that the industry average, if you get 30% kernel recovery, you're doing really well. So he had another 18% on top of that, which, like I said earlier, accounts for 10 cents in every kilogram. So, yeah.
So how many bees in a normal hive?
Great question. So there are between 1,000 and 10,000 bees in a typical hive. And so the bees inside the hive consists of a mature queen that lays all the eggs, so only one mature queen. Although when I say that, there have been found to be more than one mature queen in some hives. But typically, there's only one mature queen. But they will tolerate virgin queens in the hive. That's something that European bees won't do. They will not tolerate virgin queens, but these guys do, which makes for propagation of hives a lot easier. There's also workers. The workers are females. And there's also drones, which are the males present in the hive. So the role of the males in the hive is not much. Their one major role. Their one major role is to wait for virgin queens to leave the hive and mate with them. But a mature queen can last from between 2 and 5 years. So yeah, the drone's role in the hive is limited. Yeah.
So how much honey do they produce?
So they can produce up to, so TCs can produce around about, in this area, about 1 to 1.5 kilograms per year, whereas THs, or tetragonula hawkingsi, which is another species, which are a tropical species found a little bit further north, they can produce up to 2 to 2.5. They're almost double the size of these bees. Their hawkingsi are about 7 millimetres in size, and yeah, they're much more aggressive bee. I actually had one hive. I was keeping it at a friend's place, and a friend actually asked me to mow the lawn while they were away. So I was mowing the lawn, and these guys, if you were mowing the lawn, they're not bothered by you. They'll just go on about their business. But hawkingsi I see it as a threat, and as such, they come and they bite your neck, and they fly up your nose and grab your eyelashes, and yeah, hawkingsi are quite, as compared to TCs, hawkingsi are really aggressive.
Is the bite as bad as the sting, like a bee sting?
No. So a bite would be the same as a small black ant, not a green ant, a small black ant. Yeah. So it'd be slightly more than a small black ant, but the bees are clever. They choose where they're going to bite you. So if you were to split a hive,
Don't mow naked.
yeah.
Mental note.
So an example is that, like I said, if the bees don't feel threatened, then they won't bother you, and because they know that you're not bothering them. A really good example is that I've got a hive at one of our friends' places. I've got a 3-year-old son. Every morning he just puts his eye on the entrance of the hive just to make sure they're still there. The bees wait patiently at the back until he moves out of the way, and then back in, back in. Now if it was splitting that hive, because they feel threatened, then they're going to try to annoy you away. So the first thing that they'll do is they'll try to fly up your nose, grab your eyelashes, fly in your ears, and if that's not effective, they look for the soft parts of your body to bite. So if you're wearing shorts, they'll crawl up the leg of your pants and they'll bite on the soft skin, or they'll bite you in the joint of your arm, or one spot that they love is just the hairline. So they'll go onto that soft bit of the hairline and bite to try to get you out of the spot. Now, if you're doing one hive, then you're very unlikely. When I'm splitting a hive, I usually just wear like a mozzie net, mosquito net over my face and neck, and yeah, that keeps the bees out. And I also wear a long sleeve shirt, long pants. Now, if I'm doing 5 or 25 hives in a day, splitting them, what will happen is the first hive, like I said, then they're slow to react, so they will try to defend their hive, but they're pretty slow to react. But if you squish the bee in the process of that, it'll send out a distress pheromone. So if you go to the next hive to split it, they're already aware because there's the distress pheromone around, and all of a sudden more bees come. So the second hive is worse than the first. The 5th hive is 5 times as bad as the first, and it gets progressively worse as you go. But
do you do early morning or is time of day? Or?
Yep. So when the temperature gets about above 20 degrees, because you want the bees to be flying back to the hive. If you do it any less than 20 or 18 degrees, then the bees they'll be very slow and they will fall to the ground or stay on the equipment that you're using. Whereas we want them to actually physically go back to the hive.
Right.
So, and if it's going to be over 30 degrees in the day, generally won't split. And splitting of a hive is the best time of year is now. If you leave it any later, then you get predators like syrphid flies coming out in large numbers. And so things like syrphid flies and small hive beetles, they're opportunistic predators, so they'll seek out opportunities to invade the hive, and the way that they know is they can smell spilt honey or pollen. Small hive beetles are actually able to smell spilt honey from as far as 7 kilometres away, so they're fantastic predators. Now what they do is look for points of weakness in the hive, so if the hive's just been split or there's large cracks in the hive, they'll try to get their way in there.
They won't go through the big hole?
No. No, the bee entrance is guarded by guard bees.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they're looking for points of weakness. The syrphid fly actually just lays its eggs on the, you'll notice that I've got tape around the edges. Now the bees, they will completely seal the internal content of the hive with wax, but just as a safety precaution I like to tape those, the sides or the cracks, because the syrphid flies will lay their eggs in cracks, and then those eggs will turn into larvae or maggots. If the maggots get inside, they can be very destructive. So
they kill the hive? Or?
Yep, definitely. So if they can get in, and the bees can't get them out for whatever reason, they'll make a mess of the hive. It turns into a big slushy mess as they eat the pollen and honey, and has a really fermented smell to it, and after a period of time the bees will leave the hive.
So, ants a problem?
No, I don't find ants to be a problem. So you can see right now there's under this lid, don't tell the people from Seagulls, but under this lid I can just see sugar ants on top. They're not actually getting inside the hive, they're just using this lid or this little cavity under the lid as a spot to live. They can't actually physically get into the hive, they can't rob any of the content of the hive because the bees are guarding the entrance and everything else is sealed off. So some people choose to put grease on the star picket that they have the hive on. I hate doing that because as I move my hives from place to place, all that happens is I get grease everywhere, and yeah, it's not very pleasant. So,
but if you're not moving the hive, it stays in your backyard or something or whatever.
I don't actually think it's effective.
Right.
I think ants are very crafty and they can find their way around. Unless you had a water bath at the base of the hive or a moat, then they can get up. Ants aren't really a problem, like I said, but the one thing that can get on the hive or around the hive is spiders. And if you have a water moat or a greased pole, it doesn't matter, those spiders are going to get to the hive, and again, they're only a problem if they can actually manage to get a cobweb over the entrance of the hive, even then the bees sometimes find little exits. So the bees are very resilient, and yeah. But that's one thing I do is check the hives every so often, take a brush off any cobwebs.
So do you need to move them more than once a year, or move them at all? Or with you?
No, not at all. So I've got a friend in Mooloolaba. They've had their hive since 1954. It's stayed in the same spot, and you know. So one of the main questions that I get asked a lot is, do I need to split the hive? Do I need to harvest the honey? No, you don't. These guys aren't like European bees. They won't physically swarm when the hive when it reaches capacity. They won't. The original hive will not leave the original hive. But instead, what will happen is bees from within the hive will find a suitable cavity in the surrounding environment. They'll seal it with wax, then they'll provision it with food, then they'll put guard bees at the entrance of the hive, and then they'll send a virgin queen from this hive to become a mature queen over there. But this hive will still remain here. So there is no need to split a hive. There is no need to sugar bag. Some people say that if you don't split a hive for years and years and years, then the size of the brood might decrease. But as their food stores increase, but yeah, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. 1954, it's done nothing to the hive.
So yeah, answer that guy's question about why they swarmed yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No problem. So
That lady's question, sorry.
yeah. So it's coming into spring. So there's a few reasons why you'll find bees swarming at the front of the hive. Sometimes it can be because of bee drift. So if a bee from the neighbouring environment, there might be another hive around your place. If it comes and goes to the entrance of your hive, it's going to release a different pheromone to the pheromone in your hive, and that's going to make bees from your hive come out of the hive to defend it. Also, if there's a hive in the local area and they feel that they're stronger than your hive, they might try to actually invade your hive. And
there were no dead bees on the ground.
yep. So that's the next scenario. The next scenario is that the hive is requeening. So the majority of those bees outside, even though there's stacks of bees sometimes, the majority of them can be drones, so males, just waiting for the virgin queen to exit the hive.
So there was the hive,
Yep.
and then there was an area about this long, so 2 metres, give or take, where the bees were going backwards and forwards, and then there was an area about 1.5 metres round, like a bait ball,
Yep.
and they were just swirling around this bait ball.
But no dead bees.
No dead bees.
Yep. So it's probably likely that a bee from the area has come and had a look at your hive, and your hive are just flying out in mass to defend their hive.
Before I got these bees, there were a lot of little native bees in a perennial basil.
Yep.
And they were fine, everything was fine. Then I brought home my bees and there were no bees on the basil.
Okay.
So mine go to the swamp.
Yep.
So 500 metres is, 30 metres is swamp distance.
Yep.
So they go to the swamp, you can see them go out over the cover and across the road, and I have no idea where they go after that. So obviously my lot have taken over other territory. So
Yes, most likely. But so
because my lot don't use the basil.
they don't.
No, they
That's
have nothing
pretty
to do with it. There's commercial bees, blue-banded, the resin bee and the leaf-cutter bee,
Yeah.
all use that basil, but no little bees.
That's really interesting because
Well, I thought so.
yeah, these guys love basil. They love thyme. They love anything that goes to flower, onions. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, that's really interesting. It might be that there is something that they feel is better. When I am talking to the students about the bees, I often say that the bees are very much like us in the fact that if we offer them lollies or broccoli, they're going to eat the lollies first. And it might be the case that
The swamp would be more interesting, and when they come back there's 3 different colours on their legs.
Yeah.
So they're obviously fetching from 3 different flower
Is it a
groups.
Melaleuca swarm?
Yes, as
Yeah.
well as.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've just moved some of 150 hives off the swamp. Yeah, I know that in February through to around about May, but this year it was a prolonged season in the swamp, which was great. But yeah, February through to usually around about May, when the paperbark's flowering, the bees go crazy for the nectar on it, and they put on stacks of weight, which is
So there's a really pale yellow,
yep.
and then a more golden yellow, and then a bright orange. And you can see them come into the hive, and they're all wearing different colours.
Yeah. So that's the other thing about the swamp. I always used to think that, like, this section of the swamp that I used to take my bees to was just paperbark. But after a big rain event, one of my hives actually got washed into the swamp, so I went trudging in to get it. And just looking at the diversity in there, I was pretty amazed that there's actually, in this particular swamp, there's brush box and there's grass trees or xanthoria, and yeah, just the diversity in that one section where initially you're looking at it and you're just seeing paperbarks, you'd be really amazed at how many actually different varieties there would be, and the diversity in that area. Yeah.
And they don't like cold. They don't get out of bed until about 9 o'clock now.
Yep, you'll find over the
About
next...
a month ago it was 9:30. They just didn't get out of bed. Now it's about 9 o'clock.
No, that's really interesting that you make that observation, and it's 100% true.
Well, I came back from holidays, and you have that dislocation for jet lag and whatever. So I know they get out of bed at 7 o'clock, and I'm out there with my cup of tea, and they didn't. So 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and they still weren't. And then
You're not still sitting there, Julie?
no, I did go inside and come back out, and they knew cups of tea, and I thought, they're dead. You know, they've died while I've been away, and I've got nothing in the hive. I could have lifted the lid and put my ear to it, but I didn't do that. And then I suddenly realised it was just, they were cold.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and you'll find over the next 2 months even. So now that we've hit September, so moving my hives, so the start of the macadamia season for myself is about mid-August, and it's really good for me moving them in because temperatures are still a bit cooler. So yeah, the bees won't get out of bed until it's 18 degrees plus. And so that gives me a bit of time in the morning. I can have my sleep in until 6 and get up and get the bees, and I can still safely close off hives at about 7 if I'm lucky, 7:30. But yeah, in the next 2 months when I'm taking up bees out of the orchard, I'll have to wait till about 6:30 at night or 7 o'clock at night, or at the other end, yeah, be 4:35, and yeah, that temperature changes. It's great that you notice those things, and yeah, a lot of people do think they say, oh, my hive's dead, and I take off the star picket or the stand that they've got it on, and nearly drop it because of the weight of the hive, and then put my ear to it, and
Hear them buzzing.
oh yeah, they'll be humming away, and yeah. And people don't realise that, yeah, the temperature is a massive contributor to whether or not these guys are going to get out of bed or not.
Steve, what's the temperature range?
So, these guys cannot sustain themselves past 42 degrees. And so, generally speaking, at 18 degrees or higher, they'll forage. Now, I got made a liar I used to say 35 degrees they'll stop foraging, but there was some hot weather last summer and I went out and they decreased the amount of foraging, but some hives will still forage at even at 35 degrees. But at 42 degrees, and it was a bit of a sad experiment, but one of the professors at the University of Queensland, he took it upon himself to partake in an experiment whereby he wanted to know what temperature it was. So he fried hives. So he just put them in the oven, got the temperature to 40 degrees. No, they're okay. Got it to 42 degrees or 41 degrees. They're okay. 42 degrees, dead. And what he did find out, which was really interesting, was that these guys are very unlike European bees in their temperature regulation. honeybees, they put a lot of energy into keeping the hive insulated and keeping the inner temperature at a temperature that they like. But these guys, they'll do it to an extent, but they can survive even when the temperatures get below zero. If it's below zero for more than 4 hours, then they might struggle. But again, part of this professor's experiment was the other end of the scale. So we actually put bees into 0-degree temperatures, and like ants, when they die from chemicals, I saw the time-lapse experiment, and the bees actually wither up. They look like they're dead. Then you bring them back into warmer temperatures, and they just re-emerge and they're fine. So that was really interesting. 2 years ago in Queensland, we were really lucky in northern New South Wales not to have as bad as a temperature hit. But in central Queensland and North Queensland, they had 46-degree day, and as a result, there was hundreds of people bringing up messaging on the internet that they'd lost hives. It was literally hundreds of hives died in that 46-degree day. Yep.
The guy at my sister's hive, he after he split the hive, he put polystyrene around the hive on every side of the hive for that, I presume for that reason, to regulate the hive.
Yeah.
Do you do that? You recommend that sort of thing?
Look, some people like to do that, some people don't. I don't bother. Where we are is here on the Gold Coast.
The temperature's okay, you reckon?
It's fine. Throughout the year, we're not. What you're actually doing is, well, this is just my opinion, but you're effectively creating an esky. So if it's cold temperatures and you want to warm up the hive, then it's going to take much longer for that hive to warm up because it's got an esky around it. And now in the reverse of that, if it gets really hot and you've got an esky around it, it's going to stay hot for a long period of time. So I don't bother. The type of material I use has got high insulation qualities, so I just rely on the insulation qualities of the timber used to
so is one timber better than another then?
Again, it's
trade secret, sorry.
No, not at all. No, not at all. But like, if you talk to 5 different native beekeepers, they'll tell you that theirs is the best. So obviously I'm going to say that mine's the best because I've done temperature trials and well, no, we just put we put heaters around it and actually put a thermometer inside to check the internal temperature. And this material we used has got 3 times the insulation qualities of Western red cedar. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's really disconcerting is when you first get your hive and it's plugged, and you take the 2 plugs out, and then they just tumble out onto the ground, and you go into panic mode because they're all hitting the ground and walking away until someone explains to you that what they've been cleaning the hive and all the rubbish from the hive, they either carry the dead bees out in their mouths and drop them, and then they walk along the ground wiping their feet on the ground until they're light enough to fly.
No, you're right.
And it's very disconcerting when you see that because it's a bit of a shock when they tumble out and just hit the ground.
Yeah, well, the other thing that happens is that sometimes when you release bees, the first 50 or 100 bees will shoot out of the hive. And like on a warm day, they'll be waiting at the entrance of the hive, trying to chew through whatever's stopping them from getting out. And then those first 50 to 100 bees, they'll shoot out of the hive. And you know that they're gone forever because they've orientated to their last location. So if you're moving to a new location, yeah, those first 50 to 100 bees, they're gone. But what you'll see then is the next lot of bees that will come out of the hive they'll come out, they'll hover around the hive, and they'll go to a further distance, they'll hover around the hive, go to a further distance, hover around the hive. And what they're doing is reorientating to that new spot. So, yeah, when you see
reset
that,
the GPS.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Just sorry, I'm
okay.
Getting wrap up. Just going to.
Well, sorry.
I got one
You're welcome to stay as long as I'm just wanting to make sure that, you know, if you're ready to go, you're ready to go, but I'm wanting to see a bit more anyway.
Yeah, sure. So at this point, thanks for listening. I'm going to invite you guys to I'm going to turn the microphone off now, and I'm going to invite you to come up and have a look at the hive. And I've got some honey to sample, and yeah, thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.